"Master, why is it that nowadays people speak so badly about one another?" The young man asked the question while the sun still slept behind the mountains. In his eyes was that mixture of fatigue and restlessness that only appears in someone who has heard too many sharp words or has already used them. The monk did not answer immediately. He remained silent for a long moment, looking at the fire burning before them. Then, very slowly, he did something the young man would never have expected. He leaned forward, stretched out his open hand, and brought it close to the embers. The young man jumped. "Master, what are you doing?" The monk withdrew his hand. He smiled. "Now I have your full attention, don't I? Sit down. Let me tell you the story of a man who lived in this very valley many generations ago. They called him Tariqa Man, with quick words and an even quicker tongue. He wasn't bad, just restless inside. Tariq woke up every day with a feeling you might know, that the world didn't see him as he deserved, that others had more, that they were recognized more, that life somehow smiled on them more easily. And do you know what happens when a person carries that feeling long enough? They start to speak, not to build, but to relieve themselves. At the markets, it was Tariq who first whispered, "Have you seen Ibrahim? They say his shop isn't doing well." At the temple, it was he who murmured, "Nasrin's daughter returned to her husband's house. It must have been her fault." At family meals, it was his voice that planted doubts. "Your brother has always been like that. Don't trust him too much." And each time he spoke, he felt a brief warmth in his chest, a sensation of power, of importance. He knew, he saw, he understood what others did not see. But there was something Tariq did not know about fire. Fire does not choose who burns. One winter morning, Tariq arrived at the market with a new story. A story about Yusuf the blacksmith, an honorable, hard-working man who had spent years building his reputation stone by stone, hammer blow by hammer blow. Tariq had heard a rumor, just a rumor, but it was enough. "They say Yusuf uses poor-quality metal and charges as if it were the best," said once, said twice, said to the right people. In 3 days, Yusuf's customers began to look at him sideways. In 1 week, the first stopped coming. In a month, the forge was almost empty. Yusuf tried to defend himself. But you already know how it is when the flame of a lie begins to burn. The truth takes longer to extinguish it than the lie took to ignite it. The young man listening to the monk frowned. "So Tariq destroyed an innocent man." The monk raised a finger. "I haven't finished yet." What Tariq did not know was that Yusuf and the richest merchant in the region had been childhood friends, and that this merchant had heard everything. He said nothing at first. He waited. He observed. Meanwhile, Tariq's life went on. But something strange began to happen, so gradually that he himself did not notice. When people saw him arriving, they would slightly change the subject. Invitations to important dinners stopped appearing. His eldest son, now grown, began avoiding bringing him to business meetings. "Father, you don't need to come." One day, Tariq ran for a leadership position in the community. He who spoke so much about everyone else would surely be heard by everyone. He lost, by a margin that embarrassed him. When he went to ask a friend why, the man looked at the ground and simply said, "Tariq, people know. When someone speaks badly about everyone else in front of you, what do you think they say when you're not there?" The monk paused. The young man was completely still. The fire crackled between them. "Do you understand what happened?" the monk said. "He destroyed his own reputation while trying to destroy others. More than that," the monk pointed to the embers. "Tariq spent years picking up burning coals with his bare hands, convinced he was throwing them at others. But every coal he carried burned him first. The trust he lost, he never recovered. The friendships he pushed away never returned. The son who felt ashamed remained ashamed. And Yusuf? The young man asked. Yusuf suffered. For a time, he suffered greatly. But the truth, when it is real, has roots. Roots withstand the storms. Yusuf's forge began burning again, stronger, because those who remained were the ones who truly trusted him. The monk leaned forward again. This time the young man did not move. He knew the monk would not touch the embers. Do you want to know why people nowadays speak badly about one another? Yes. For the same reason they always have. Because those who carry emptiness inside look for weight in the stories of others. Because it is easier to point than to grow. Because criticizing gives the illusion of height. You seem taller when the other appears smaller. The young man nodded slowly. But there is something that has changed in our time, the monk continued. Today the embers fly faster. A word spoken in a moment of anger or envy can cross the world before you regret it, and the heat it leaves in your hands, that stays. Then what should I do, master, when I feel the urge to speak badly about someone? The monk closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he said only this: ask yourself, what is it that this person awakens in me? Because the anger we feel toward others is almost always a broken mirror, and the shards we see in them are pieces we recognize in ourselves. And if the word still wants to come out, then remember Tariq, remember his hands, and choose, will you carry the ember, or will you leave it where it is? The sun had finally risen over the mountains. The young man remained silent for a long moment. Then he said, Master, I think I've carried many embers without realizing it. The monk nodded gently. All of us have done it. The difference between the wise man and the fool is not that the wise man never picks up an ember. It is that the wise man learns to drop it before it burns him deeply. He stood up. Before leaving, he turned back one last time, and when you feel that urge to speak, speak, but speak about dreams, speak about ideas, speak about what you are building, words that leave good marks in the world. Those do not burn the one who carries them. They illuminate. And so ends another parable. If at any moment you recognize Tariq in yourself, or thought about an ember you may still be carrying, then this channel was made for you. Here we do not talk about perfection. We talk about awakening, about seeing more deeply, about choosing better. Subscribe now, so the next parable reaches you at the exact moment you need to hear it. Because there are stories that change your day, and there are stories that change your life. And comment below, what was the last ember you carried without realizing it? You don't need to expose yourself. It can be a word, an emoji, a truth spoken in a quiet voice, but say something. See you in the next video.